Welcome to the Seek, Go, Create podcast. This is Tim Winders, your host. I'm a coach for business owners, executives, and leaders. My wife and I consider ourselves nomads. We currently travel, live, and work in our 39-foot RV. In fact, those that might be watching this, I'm in the passenger seat of the RV right now. That's where I'm recording my portion of the podcast. I do want to encourage all of you that are listening to make sure you listen to the end of the podcast. We've got a lot of great tips and training that we're going to be doing, but make sure you listen because we will include ways that you can continue this conversation that we start today so you can connect with us and communicate with us directly. So anyway, just make sure you stay to the end. Today, we have Tanya J. Miller as our guest, and as always, I'm excited. I love having our guest and just having these conversations. She's an author, speaker, coach, and strategist. Her focus is on life and leadership, where she helps individuals and organizations discover, diagnose, and develop purpose, passion, vision, and destiny. Those are a lot of awesome words right there. Tanya, welcome to the Seek, Go, Create podcast.
Hey, Tim. Hello to the Seek, Go, Create family. Definitely excited to be here and ready to dig into the conversation that we'll be going into to do what you do and do what I do and make sure we do it well. So I'm ready.
Yeah, perfect. So first question I always like to ask, and I really love it when we have coaches and strategists and people that have your kind of background is elevator speech. What do you really do? Give me a real quick, you got 10 seconds, and I look over at you and say, hey, Tanya, what do you do?
I help people and organizations figure out how to fit the puzzle pieces of life together so they can do life right and well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that puzzle pieces. That's good. Very good. So, all right, now we're recording this in May. In fact, we're recording it on my wife's birthday, which is cool. And
Happy birthday,
and
Mrs. Winders.
yeah, and her name, you'll love this. Her name is Glory, Glori, Glory.
Oh, wow. She got the glory already. That's awesome. That's
She's
awesome.
she's got the glory, and one of the things we say all the time is when you're around her, then you have been glorified.
I love it. I love it. Happy birthday indeed.
Yes. So what I'd love to do first is just share kind of what part of the world you're in and let us know, how family and everybody's doing because we are hopeful that everything is a-okay by the time this podcast releases. But right now, most people are kind of in quarantine, lockdown. Some people are starting to get out in some states, but just give us a glimpse of where you are and how everybody's doing.
Yeah, so I am in Dallas, Texas. That's the bigger city you would be familiar with, but actually I'm in Irving, a suburb or city outside of Dallas. And everyone's doing fine. Mom and dad, my dad actually is still working. He does some, I guess you would say, some essential work. So him and my little brother have still been working. My mom is a teacher's assistant for special education. So she's technically working too. She's working from home. It's definitely been a challenge working and trying to work with the kids via Zoom because of the autism and Down syndrome and different things like that. So that's been a challenge to try and do some type of a Zoom teaching and lesson plan. My niece, my brother's little girl, she's there as well doing her homework, or at least she's getting it in before the deadline. I'll say that way. My husband and I were doing well. He's working from home as well. I'm more or less on a sabbatical right now, but everybody's doing okay. Nieces and nephews, cousins, others, my older siblings, my sister, my older sister, everybody's kind of doing okay, trying to abide by the rules that are here in Texas. Friday we opened up semi, they say, but it seems like we opened up all the way, but we're still staying put and just being cautious and careful.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And again, hopefully, when this airs, when the final podcast episode airs, everything will be great. But we're in a changing world. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely.
Your background, author, speaker, coach, strategist. I guess those are all words I love because they kind of also describe me a little bit, which is probably one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons we were kind of drawn to each other. But tell me,
Absolutely.
each one of those, either positive or maybe even a little negative. I know I like to be optimistic, but
Mm-hmm.
how are each one of those roles being impacted in our world that we're in, kind of this new normal we're in?
Yeah, so I had some book signings that I had scheduled, and they didn't switch to virtual, so some of those book signings have been canceled. I had some speaking engagements. They didn't switch to virtual, so they've been postponed until 2021. As far as any coaching, I've kind of just more or less continued on with virtual. Most that's already kind of what I was doing easier because I do coaching across the country, so you don't have to actually be here. So those kind of measures, if you will, were already in place. I wasn't doing like any one-on-one personal. And then strategy sessions, same thing, offering the ability that if your organization is still open but virtual, let's just have a virtual leadership session or a virtual conversation with, CEO, founder, or a virtual training. So that hasn't been changed much either, because of the flexibility of how it can be done. That hasn't changed, but definitely as an author, those book signings with actual bookstores local here, they were closed. I got one in right before it closed everything down. And then, like I said, my speaking engagements, they were all over, and they have been either canceled or postponed to 2021. But, I would say in all of this, what it's, reminded me to do is to pivot, not to let one thing that may look like a burden or look like a stumbling block, not to let it weigh me down, but find a way to pivot and use, go about it a different way. So, prime example is, as an author and speaker and coach and strategist, I decided, hey, let me be proactive and reach out to opportunities to where I can, partner and build community and build connection and build collaboration with awesome people that are podcasters or even doing virtual summits and conferences. And hey, pitch myself. Why not bet on me? And those that have been ones that saw what I was about, saw my brand, loved it, and definitely t- tuned into me and were attracted, to what I was talking about. We scheduled them and we've done them. And like you said, you saw a little bit of what I was doing in you and vice versa. And so that's definitely
Yeah.
why I'm here. And like I say, it's been a challenge, but sometimes when challenges come, you have to see it from a new way and a new perspective, and then cultivate your next measure from that standpoint.
Yeah, and that's good. And again, that's kind of one of the reasons we were drawn to each other,
Hmm.
because I think somebody on your team reached out,
Hmm.
and we have a lot of people reaching out to us. There's a lot of people wanting to talk to podcasters now, and a lot of people starting podcasts, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, kind of related to that, I actually just at this time I'm coming off where there was a client that we had that we were going to have an event in Palm Springs, California,
Oh, that would
this
have been
last
nice.
weekend.
That would have been
Yeah,
nice.
it would have been nice to be there, except during this time when nobody can fly or some
Yeah.
people, not really fly travel. It would have been very interesting. And we just came off doing it. We pivoted very quickly, did a virtual summit. And let me just tell you, it went very well, far exceeded our
Awesome.
expectations,
That's great.
both participative and learned a ton. So maybe offline, you and I can talk about all that
Oh,
we
yeah.
learned from it because we really didn't understand what we were doing, but we came out of it very well, very profitable, and provide a lot of resources for
Wow.
people
That's
that are going to
great.
continue learning and being part of it. So a lot of things going on. And you know what? This is really a time that I think all of us are going to be forced to stretch, don't you think?
Oh, stretch indeed. Stretch, change your perspective, figure out a new way to, deliver what you do, create or do or produce, but from a way that you can get it to people given the circumstances. And so, yeah, you're going to have to shift. You're going to have to look at it from a different paradigm. Absolutely. You're going to stretch. I love that. I actually have a message button that says you got to stretch for it. That's awesome.
Now, now, a lot of people can find you. You have something that's talking with Tanya. I
Yeah.
have to be careful. It's Tanya, not Tanya. So it's Tanya, Tanya. I have to remember that.
Hey,
Talking with
it's
Tanya.
okay.
Tell us a little bit about that, and we're going to provide links in the notes and also
Hmm.
that people could stay connected with you. And I'm moving towards talking about your recent book, Things My Mama Said. I love the title of that. It just sounds like we're going to have fun with this conversation, but
Oh my
we're kind of
God,
warming up to it. We're
that's
warming up
hilarious.
to it right now. So tell us about Talking with Tanya, what that is.
Talking with Tanya, it originally was a blog, or rather, it wasn't even a blog, it was an email over 15 years ago. And it was just a way to stay connected with the young adults that were part of the nonprofit that had around mentorship. And I dissolved the nonprofit, but everybody was like, but are you keeping Talking with Tanya going? And so it's been around, providing motivation, inspiration, and encouragement for wherever you're at. And, when I set up my business, Tanya Miller LLC, I realized that I wanted to bring it under that, because it was already a brand on its own and people already recognized it and they loved it. So, it's moved from an email to a blog to, a newsletter to, a post, social media, and now it's a vlog. So, it just helps you for wherever you at, gets you the message, the motivation, all of that, exactly where you are. You don't have to fix you for you to get this message.
So you've been pivoting for a while now. If that was 15 years ago and you just went through I don't know how many different avenues,
Yes.
right?
Hmm. Yeah, and in that sometimes I had to start all over with my audience and with my followers, but I knew there was a purpose and I knew that people needed what I had. So even if I started out with zero or one or five, those five needed exactly what I was going to offer at that time as far as the message and motivation and inspiration and encouragement. So I dare not stop just because I had to start all over again. That just means, like you said, pivot and keep going. So that's what exactly I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. So who really works with you? And I know that if you do similar to what I do, you'll work with anyone,
Hmm.
but typically we kind of have I don't know if it's an ideal audience or
Hmm.
client, but
Yes.
I mean, do you have a profile or anything? I
I
mean,
know.
that you could tell
Just
us?
how you're asking me, that's how you can you kind of have the same thoughts about it when somebody asks me. Like, it's not necessarily it's an ideal person as far as demographics. It's a person that's ready to tap into their purpose. It's a person that is ready to go after and pursue what's in them and what's already been in them all the time and what was born in them, but they didn't know how to pull it out. They didn't know how to tap in. They didn't know how to uncover it. And I work with them to build out that roadmap, and I work with them to come up, if they're wanting to do a business or a nonprofit, a strategy to go in place to 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 make those next steps, and I coach them along the way. So it's a lot of times a person that's ready to do purpose for real in real life and go all the way with it because they're tired of the old life that they've been living and they've been living for everybody else but themselves. So, age demographics, honestly, a lot of times it's literally from 18 to 55, and it's half and half men and women, honestly.
Interesting. Okay, well that's good because what you're really talking about is more mindset
Yep.
than what's on the
Yep.
outside, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's it, exactly.
All right, so we've talked to a number of people that are in that we'll call it coach world, and there's some theories and thoughts that I have, and I'm gonna kind of grill you on these because I have
Yes,
some
sir.
theories that it's hard to prove because it's hard to get the date on it, but
Okay.
I'm curious. Have you always had that coach gene, or did you just develop it over time?
So it's the other one. I literally that's literally what it is. I tell people, they're like, "Well, how did you get into coaching?" I was like, first of all, this whole word is new to me, but I said it's what I was already doing. Like I was already, mentoring and ministering and providing guidance and providing accountability to teens and youth and young adults and women and men. I was like, I've been doing this like for 18 years, over 18 years. Like I took over my youth department at 17. Like I've been doing this for a long time. And even then, before that, I was a team leader. So I was like, but okay, since the world has made a name for it, let's go and get some education behind it, get a title behind it, so I can let them know that I know what I'm doing. So it's the first thing.
Yeah, and I bet, and listen, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit farther. I
Hmm.
bet it didn't start when you were 17.
Oh
I
no,
bet
no,
if
it
we could go
didn't.
back and talk to Tanya in elementary school, I
Hmm.
bet on the playground, I bet you were organizing and you would watch for the person that was not quite participating and you would go over and encourage them. Tell me if I'm saying anything wrong here.
Listen, my fourth and fifth grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Johnson, and she literally told my parents. She said, "If Tanya, if I'm teaching in class, and if everybody's kind of looking weird," she said, and then I look at Tanya, and she's not got it, that means nope, I got to start over because if Tanya doesn't get it, then nobody's gonna get it. And I was like, I don't know how to feel about that, but it let me know, like, one, I was already a leader, but I was more of a servant leader. I was just more of wanting to help and to make sure everybody was okay, and they understood everything and they were able to excel. So it was already in me to be that leader, to be that coach. It was in there. It's just um was already a part of what I was doing and who I was, and so to your point about the gene, I would say it's more or less the purpose for that was already there before I was born. It was already a part of my DNA, my essence. And so over the years, it was growing and grooming and coming to the place of fruition to where you see it today. But it's always been there.
Yeah, and it's still growing. I mean, we still are
Oh yeah.
stepping into that. I always say our assignment that we have in the kingdom is that we're really all just we're stepping into it. And listen, I believe I'm a good bit older than you are, and I'm still stepping. I mean, I'm still stepping into it and seeing what it is. And but also a part of it, and this is kind of where we're going to I think have a lot of fun. A part of it is the environment that you're in. It has spiritual, as it has family, it has there are even some generational things that have probably occurred that have led to it. So what I'd love to do, and I love to do this on the podcast, and we're in the entrepreneur space, so a lot of people say just talk about business and marketing. No, I like to know what make people tick.
Okay.
And I also know we have people that are in ministry, business, people that are just doing stuff. So I'd love for you to just kind of let's just have fun. Tell us about where you grew up, a little bit about the family, and we're going to get into things your mama said in a little while. So let's don't launch into that just yet. I think that's going to be a big part of it. But set the stage for us on what made Tanya Tanya.
Well, first of all, since we're talking and we're able to flow freely talking about kingdom, I was born as a PK in the kingdom, so I didn't have I was already there. So I'm a pastor's kid. If you don't know what that means, I'm a PK.
Yeah.
And so, growing up, you know, we'll talk about it more, but I'll just tell you, from where my parents came from and what they had starting out, they knew it was more that they wanted to give us. And so the beautiful thing about what they did was they made the decision to sacrifice. And what I mean by that is you could say we grew up in the inner city, the urban, the hood, whatever you want to call it, but they didn't want us to have that mindset. They didn't want us to have that mentality. They didn't want us to only see what only think that we could see what we had, only have what we could see, and so, or think. And so they wanted to expose us to the more. And so sacrifice meant it would be a challenge, right? Y'all catching that. And so they sacrificed to move us to another part of the city but that had better education because there were issues in the schools that we had. Me and my older brother at the time, there were issues. They told
Was this
us
Dallas? Was
that
this the Dallas area?
Fort Worth. They
Okay,
told
Fort
us
Worth. Okay.
that, and there's nothing wrong with special education, but they told us that we were remedial and special ed and all these things. And my parents were like, no, it, no, I know my children, so let me take them out of what you think they are and let me show them and take them to where I know they should be. And so we moved school districts, and literally I straight A's, straight A's, honor roll, gifted and talented programs, all these applied learning programs, magnet school, AP. But I'm the same girl that they told that you were special ed, you were this, you were that. You tried to label me. My parents like, no, no, no. You will not label my children. I know what's in them. I know what's able to be birthed in them. You don't have the right tools, and so that sacrifice was very real. My dad actually has been an entrepreneur my entire life, in addition to being a pastor, and but at that time a minister. And so anybody that's an entrepreneur, there's ups and downs, ebbs and flows, seasons where things are going great and where things are not going great. And so trying to live, if you will, what somebody would assume above your means with those ups and downs, it had challenges, absolutely, challenges, but we always knew why they did what they did, and we never questioned that, because we knew that my dad didn't even have a diploma, didn't even graduate. My mom 1 or 2 years in college. They wanted us to have more, and so they showed and exposed us to more. And in that, seeing more what was out there for us, it let us know that we could actually go for it. And so that's what we did. I had internships and mentorships like in third and fifth grade. Like, I saw things that I wouldn't have seen in my original environment. And so because my environment changed, the exposure changed, the opportunities changed as well.
Yeah. So, all right. Being a pastor's kid,
Hmm.
I knew when I was growing up just outside of Atlanta, this was a few years back, I grew up with some kids that were in the same category, we'll just say.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it seemed as if they fit, and you hate to really pigeonhole people, but they fit one of two things. So
Okay. I don't know where we're
I'm
going,
about
but
to ask a
okay.
confession question.
Yeah.
There were either the ones that they would toe the line and would be living above and beyond any of the expectations that one might have for a preacher's kid,
Okay.
or or they were doing everything they could to get away from that preacher's kid. And so, just so you know, my wife was her father was a minister also.
Okay.
So we've
We're
had
all
discussions about
PKs in here. Okay.
yeah, well, no, not me. I was not, definitely.
Oh,
We
okay.
won't get into
Okay.
that. So which one were you? Were you one that you did everything right and you dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, or were you one that kind of skirted the other side and said, let me see if I could dabble in the other side here just to see what the other world, how the other world lives?
So, Tim, it's a compounded question because
Ooh,
we didn't get raised like normal PKs or normal people were raised back then. Me and my mother actually had a conversation about this on Facebook Live yesterday, and I told her, she was like, I was like, you do know, like, most people weren't raised like this, and she was like, why? Like, why wouldn't they be raised like this? Like, what's the problem? I was like, Mom, like, literally, they told us the way, they gave us the tools, and then they let us make our own decisions. But they also said that there would be consequences. So that's what I said. It wasn't that we did. They let us do if I'm just be honest. If you were going to go to a party or to a club or to a dance Saturday night, that's your decision to go, because I'm going to give you free will and I'm going to let you make your decision. But there's also going to be on this other side Sunday morning when I come knock on your door and my dad would say, good. He would sing a song. I can't remember what it is right now, but he would knock on the door and sing a song every Sunday morning. And if you didn't get up, you didn't get dressed, you didn't get ready, you went on time, that was going to be the problem. Because if you're going to do what you want to do on Saturday, you're going to have to do what I say. Sunday. And so that's why I said, like, and they would dialogue with us, like we would be able to have open conversation and say what we like. You could say what you want to say, like if you and that may have been like she said it. She was like, I understand that some of the things that kids would say, a parent might get offended by it or upset by it. She was like, but I'd rather you, they were like, I'd rather you talk to me and say all of what you need to say than you go out to the world, into the streets, into somebody else, and they lead you astray. And so that's why I said it's compounded, because they let us do it, not necessarily like whatever we wanted to do, but they let us have free will in our decisions. But they also make sure that there were going to be consequences, and and you would still have to abide. So yeah, it's we grew up very differently. Like yeah, like we had our own phone lines like in third grade. And we didn't have a curfew of when you had to get off the phone, which like everybody was like, you don't have to get off the phone at a certain time. I'm like, no, why do you have to get off the phone? So yeah, it was very different than most people would think, especially as PK kids.
Yeah, you know the thing that just jumped out at me
Uh huh.
is I've actually had this conversation before on the podcast with someone who really grew up in a very different world. They actually are a C-level executive out in Silicon Valley right now. And
Okay.
they said the same thing. We were talking about integrity, we were talking about things related to, honor. And he said the same thing, that the reason he has that is because of the freedom his parents gave him when he was growing up.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Like.
pretty powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. And so that's why I was like, and we're going to get into it, but I was like, you, no, I'm telling you, I meet a lot of people that literally are like, hey, how did y'all grow up like this? Like, how are your parents not strict? Like, how is, I was like, they told us the way, they gave us the decisions, they let us make our own decisions, they let us talk to them freely, they let us come to about whatever we needed to come to them about. And that was how it was. Like, they were just like, who else would you go to? Why would you go to anybody else? Why would I not be able to talk to you? Why would I be afraid to talk to what I birthed, what I brought into
Mm,
this world, what came from me? No. Yeah, you came from me, so you are me. Okay,
that's right.
what is it about?
That is so good. And I have to be careful because I'll take off preaching, because here's what I
I'm
heard there. Here's what I heard
Yes,
there
sir.
is that relationship is so much more powerful than religion,
Oh yeah.
because religion is about the rules and regulations, and you better do this, you better do that, or else whatever.
Hmm.
And it sounds like there was power in the relationship, which to
Oh yeah.
me is a great model for how we're supposed to have relationship with our Father, Heavenly Father. Amen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you. Yeah, definitely. It's Yeah, I guess you could say they modeled it for us. They modeled the way, they showed us the way, and we had the free will to make the decisions and go after the life that we chose.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, all right. So I got a couple questions rolling in my head. Let me try to stay focused.
Okay.
What was the value? And it's okay. I don't mind telling people it's okay if Holy Spirit just kind of comes in. We do this quite often on the podcast, so no big deal. But what was the value of not just being full-time ministry, but also having the business and entrepreneur? Because many times I'm a little bit challenged with people that are maybe just full-time ministry, because I'm a business guy. I was actually saved in a business setting, but yet I also consider myself a minister, and I preach, and my wife and I do, but yet we have a lot of business also. So looking back, what was the value of having that business example as well as ministry example? Did that impact you at all? And if so, how?
It taught me how to be able to have a business and run it from a kingdom perspective, and know, whatever I did, it was unto him, even if it was a regular, like he had a auto shop. He ran it in decency and in order. He ran it with the spirit of excellence. He put the biblical kingdom principles into effect in everything he did and how he modeled the business and even how he ran it. And so it showed me how to model a kingdom business, even if it wasn't ministry.
Mm, that's good. See, I love the thought of that because to me, that is a full definition of kingdom. It's ministry, it's business, it's not necessarily nonprofit or for profit. It is just to advance. It's to advance that kingdom. And you know what? I've seen people that drive for Uber that do it as well as anybody that
Hmm.
is sometimes standing in a pulpit preaching every Sunday.
Hmm. Absolutely, you're right. You can, like you said, you can get saved anywhere. It's not about the
That's right.
place. It's about the assignment.
Yeah, yeah. So that's good. All right. So another thing that I love to ask about people that have spiritual background, but then also are operating in the business world is what were the concepts of money when you were growing up? Sound like just like many things you had. I love the spiritual term seasons. Some business people don't understand, but that's a spiritual term. We had seasons, and that's sometimes a code word for there was some really good times and there was some not so good times. But what did you learn about money, good and bad? Listen, I've gone back on this podcast and shared some things that I've had to overcome about money because of some things about the way I was raised. But talk to us just about money.
I would say part of why I went and did the corporate path and why I still do it in education was because I wanted the education to back up the purpose. I wanted to be able to have not just the principles of the kingdom, but the knowledge and the skills as well. And so I knew that I wanted to be able to help in that sense because I saw the struggles. I saw the times when there was plenty and then when there was none, and not necessarily able to, come through that hole, if you will. And so, like I said, there were times, even because of that, it affected home. But we were okay because we knew it. But just because we knew it didn't mean that I didn't want to learn how to do it better. And so that's exactly what I did, those times, those hard times of loss and, finances, weren't there and, couldn't borrow from this person anymore. It was the struggle. There were times when the lights were on and times when we were, cutting, putting some wood in the fire to stay warm, boiling water, So there were times to where, you had lunch money that day, and then you had to go figure out to make you a lunch because there wasn't some. So, I learned how to make sure I did some things better, and I used what they were giving us, the sacrifices that they were making, to be able to learn how to put myself in a position to where I had the education that I could demand more financially, that I had the experience and I had the knowledge that I could excel further. And they did all of what they did for us. And so there's nothing now that if they need, we don't try to supply and we don't try to help because we, all of us, wouldn't be where we are without them. And we know that. And we know where they started and we know where they're at. And, they're still not anywhere near where we are financially as their children. But literally, if I went to them today and said I need $100, they probably don't have it, but they gonna go find $100 and give it to us. And that's just who they are. It's not about them. It's about making sure they pass on what they didn't have and put it in us. And so, um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. Did that drive you? I mean, because you obviously have gotten education, you've gotten some training beyond maybe had you. let's just say stayed at the level. I think one of the things that is such a blessing for parents, it should be, I believe, is to look at their children and see them go beyond what they achieved, right?
Listen,
And so,
Tim, you can't
and it
keep my
seems,
mama from telling somebody.
is
I
she
mean,
brag? Does she brag?
Tim, I be like, stop telling our business. Stop telling folks such and such. I just gotta let them know. Listen, that's my child. I be like, oh my god, oh my god.
I like, so you just put on, that's mama voice. Is that the mama voice that you put on? You could,
I be like, really? Like for real? Like, stop. She like,
well, since we brought it up, why don't you tell everyone about Linda? Tell them about your mama. And then there's a couple of chapters in the book. Like I said, I
okay.
wasn't able to read it in depth, and I'm going to ask you about the chapter title and let you give us a little bit of glimpse into the book. We're going to
Oh
recommend everybody
God.
get the book, and we're going to put the link in. But
Okay.
first of all, tell us about her. Her name's Linda, right? Did I read that right?
Yeah, yeah. It's Linda. As she said yesterday, Linda Denise McAllister Franklin. I was like, did you do your whole name, Mama? Yes, Mama Linda. That's her. So
Yeah.
tell you
So tell us
about
about her.
her. So
Yeah.
she has she birthed four children, but she is the mother. She was the mother of eight. We lost my sister last year, my oldest sister, to cancer. But she has been a minister's wife, been a pastor's wife, and I'll be honest, she is not one to talk. Like, so the fact that I got her to come take me, I was shocked. Like, I asked her and she was like, okay. And I was like, did she know what I asked her? But like, she's the first, like, cause I'll be honest, we grew up originally the church was Baptist. And so if you know anything about some of the Baptist like rules and doctrine, like women at the time, they didn't have that opportunity. Like that's why a lot of churches that were Baptist or even other missionary Baptists, they had to go non-denominational because the Baptists would not allow women to become preachers and to have any roles beyond a missionary title. And so she had kind of that training or guidance as a minister's wife. You sit in that second row, he preaching, and you say a word, hallelujah, praise him, and you cheer your husband on, and then you smile and shake hands and da 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 da. Like that was the role back then. But as time has progressed and how things have went as far as going non-denominational, she definitely is more active. She told me yesterday she's still not gonna preach, but she's more active and involved. But what's in her has always been in her. She just may not have shown it or did it. And the crazy thing about what I found out yesterday, my granny passed in February. And so we were talking about her. And so I said, I told people since we're talking kingdom, I flow in the prophetic. And I said, I've openly done it probably since 17 when I became my daddy's armor bearer. Like we be up there tag teaming. So um, but she said, but I told people, I said, y'all do know I got it from her. She'll just may say or pray about it or tell my daddy, but she's not gonna. She will not go up there and say nothing or go say something to somebody. And so I got it from you. Did you get it from Granny? She was like, yes. I did not know that, Tim. I did not know my granny flowed in the prophetic. She was like, yes. She said, but she told her she would not do it because she said my granny told her she would not do it because she was too scared. And so just to know generationally that gift was still passed down, but the boldness came in and through me. And that I was, I said, okay, God, I surrender. Yes, I'll flow, I'll go. I knew, but I still had the backing. I still had two more generations of it pushing and pulling on me to just say yes. So each year, each generation, it progressed a little bit. But she tells
Mm.
people she's always wanted to be a therapist and a psychologist, and so she be on that mind stuff. So that's even how she did it. Listen, Tim, she will play mind tricks. You don't need a whooping. She gonna have a Jedi mind trick on you. You like what? Wait, what? That's how she did you, and you were so
She just
confused. You know,
knows.
got so confused. You didn't even. want to do nothing wrong because you didn't know what you didn't know what to do because you didn't understand what happened. So
I
yes,
know.
that's
That's
her, but
cool.
she loves
You
us
know,
all.
speaking of prophetic, as you
Yes,
were
sir.
speaking there and
Mhm.
talking about the generations of women,
Mhm.
I actually saw a waterfall that had a flow that was starting, and I believe it was starting even way back from even the generations that you mentioned. And it started off with a cascade and it went down, and then it went to another holding and it went down again, and it just kept coming down. And Tanya, it just exploded in a big, huge pool that was with you
Mm.
and all that you're doing. And all
Wow.
of it came down generations. Now they were flowing, and I think we all serve our purposes and we
Yes.
have our assignments, like we said
Oh, yeah.
earlier. But there are certain times and there are certain generations where things will literally explode because of preparation that's been going on for generations before. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. You about to make me
And
listen.
so
You about to make me cry and shout. Like,
and
hold it
so
together, Tanya.
it was fascinating as you were saying that. I just watched these waterfalls just flowing and cascading, and we all know that there's a lot of scriptural foundation to water and the power of water and the flow and all of those things. And so that's incredible. And you know what? I want to acknowledge this too. There has been a lot of challenge over the years. I spent a little bit of time in a Baptist church growing up in the South, and listen, love them. They learn the Bible and they can tell good Bible stories and they preach Bible and stuff that we need to get, but there are some things that they have taken some scriptures, I believe, out of context to try to keep women from speaking,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
And so anyway, well that's exciting. So we've got a little bit of background with your mama, and so you wrote a book
Hmm.
called Things Mama Said, where you did or you attempted to capture the essence of who your mama is. Tell us about the book, what inspired it, and then I'm going to ask some specific things about that.
Because she was a fan favorite. Like literally people were like, I need to meet her, I need to see her, I need to talk to her. Like, bring your mama. And like I said, she was not coming on no camera. And she wasn't right or do that. So I just felt and knew it was time because that wasn't my second project, but I felt and knew that it was time to do it. So I did, and I pulled together talking with my little brother, my little sister, my older brother, and my cousin who was basically in our household most of the time because she was only child, and her mom, who also just passed recently, was always working. So my mom said, she's one of us. She's a part of us. I'm not going to let her be by herself. So she literally became the fifth or the ninth of us. So she was always with us and everything. And so I asked them, hey, do y'all remember some stuff Mama said? They was like, yeah. I said, okay, do you mind telling me some stories? And can I have your permission to tell some of these stories? Because I'm writing a book about Mama. And they was like, yeah, like this sounds fun. Like they were excited. I said, okay. So it's 20 sayings, a story behind some of those things, but it also includes the lesson we learned along the way. And, like I said, I know some people didn't experience that. And I know people still need to see life from a different lens. And so that's what I try to do.
Yeah, how did she respond
She
to
was
the book?
okay with it. One thing I told her, I was like, I'm not going to do it if you don't approve it. Like, I'm not going to write the book if you don't say okay. She said okay, and I said okay. I'm not going to publish the book without your approval of reading the final product. So from the beginning, I got her permission. From the end, when we got ready to publish, I got her permission because I wanted to make sure she read the book and was okay with every word that was said. And she said yes. And I said, okay, I also want you to do a forward. Then we're going to do a prayer journal and I need to write some prayers. And so she was like, okay. She was okay with it.
And
And,
and I,
and
I
Tim,
think
she's so okay with it that when I do book signings and she's helping me, she makes sure she signed the book too. She like,
She goes,
pass
by
me
the way,
that. I gotta sign too.
I am the mama that she's talking about. It sounds like
Yeah,
she was in an influencer and celebrity before influencer and celebrity was cool.
basically. Like, yes, yes, she is a fan favorite for real. Like they ask about her all the time. I actually had did a podcast interview with him, and apparently I talked about her so much. He said he wanted to interview with her, and I was like, first of all, she's not gonna get on the mic. He said, no, just ask her. And I finally asked her, and she said, okay. So they're gonna set something up. I was like, oh my god, I don't know where we're going with this. Like, she's gonna blow up.
She could step into her assignment
Yes,
that may have been there for a long time. So
correct.
well, that's that's exciting, and I think give us the name. It was a song that was the name of the devotion because I was thinking, is it Mama said there'd be days like this? Is that the devotion?
Yes, yes. That's actually the name of the prayer journal. Yep. Things the mama said. Mama said
Okay.
there'd be days like this. Yep.
And isn't there no Motown song? Mama said there'd be days like this. There'd be
Probably.
days
Yes,
like.
yes. And she loved
I
Motown.
read it
So
going, wow.
that might be where I got it from, and it just stuck in my head because she loved Motown. She loved all of that.
Woo.
Hmm.
Well, those are great titles. So, all right, I'm gonna ask you maybe to give us a little bit of peek into some of these chapters, and there's some of them that actually got me thinking about some really possibly deep conversation. We'll see if we want to go down that road. But all right, a hard head makes a soft,
I'm
and
sorry.
it could be behind, but I'm gonna say behind.
Yes. So that comes from you can do what you want to do, but know that there's going to be consequences because there's going to be consequences with every decision that you make in life. And the decisions may not be the ones that you want or expect, but you have to accept what happens based upon what you decided to do because you made a decision. And so you might learn it the hard way. You might learn it after losing everything. You might learn it after, you know, some bad times happening. But know that I'm teaching you now that there's consequences to what you do. And if you decide to go and stay out past your curfew of 2 o'clock and you decide to come home at 4, I'm gonna let you know that your hard head gonna get your bottom real clear. That's gonna be in the physical, but know that it's the same way in life. You have to accept whatever the consequences are. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is we're recording this in 2020, so we have to be careful with this conversation. But
I know.
did y'all ever have a situation where you got out of line and there were some consequences on the behind, we'll call it, that might be called, I don't know, words like getting a spanking, getting a whooping, getting your attention. I'm gonna
So
whatever words you want to use.
she said she was like, she said, I'm gonna tell y'all, I gave them whoopings, but I also know now in 2020 and where we at now, you might get in trouble. She actually said that. She was like, so some of the stuff we did is like faux pas and like, oh no, you can't do that. You can't whoop your kids today. So she actually said that. But yeah, we got whoopings. It wasn't beatings. Like some people say they got beat. I no, that wasn't it. And some of the times, you know, um, it would be not the whooping that was the worst, but let's say, she might have you do something and do it for so long that it you just you tire out yourself. So like you might have to sit, in a corner, or you might have to, you know, stand with your arms like this, and until she said, like, sometimes it was never her even touching us or whatever, or it would just be the hurt of her disappointment in what you did and realizing that happened as well. So yeah, some of the ways to which she instilled punishments are not necessarily accepted in 2020, but you still have to find a way to discipline your children, and
Yeah.
show them that there's consequences, because the world is going to show you consequences. They're going to fire you. They're going to put you in jail. They're going to do all these other things. They're going to label you. They're going to do whatever. So if I don't show you that there's consequences now, somebody else is going to show you, and they're going to be far worse than anything that I could do. And what I did is in love to prepare you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there was. I still recall being told to go down by the creek and pick out a switch.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I
Listen, my
remember that
granny,
today, and
man, she had some bushes, and she would be like, "Go get me a switch," and you'd be like,
oh
"Dang,
man,
why do
that
you have
walk.
to pick my own with my own spanking too? Like, what is that about?" Yes, "Go get me a switch" was infamous.
Or you just wait. You sit there and wait till your daddy gets home, and we're going to discuss it, and then we will
Let you
bring
know.
forth judgment.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, but it's so much, we laugh about it and we can joke about it, but there is so much more and so much necessary in the forms of discipline that aren't happening. I'm not saying you have to do the switch or the belt, but they shouldn't be able to just be in a restaurant and run around the restaurant and without any consequences. Like if mama said or daddy say sit down, you need to sit down and eat your dinner or your like and not talk back. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. It's different today.
It, it is different today, and a lot of people, it makes us sound kind of like, oh, if things were just the way they were used to be, but they're all of these lessons that you list out, these 20 things, these mama isms, I guess, things your mama said, all of them to me, we could probably go through, we could apply them to business, corporate, ministry, individual success, which is awesome. There's one thing you brought up early. You actually said this word twice. You've used the term labels. I wrote it down on my notepad here. And then there's a chapter, I think you said, it's tell me one more time something ain't fair. And this is somewhere where we could actually get into a much deeper conversation, which I think it might be cool. And anyway, we'll see. People say, hey, you're going to get deeper than giving whoopings? Well, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But we're in a society, Tanya, where there are so many labels given, and I'm going to give a couple that people could have given you, and then maybe relate it to this chapter. If it doesn't relate to the chapter, let me know. But female, woman, many times in business and success, sometimes people give those labels that they may or may not be able to achieve to the same level as male. Someone of color, African American or color, we have a very label-driven society. And then you mentioned labels earlier. When you were very young, there was a possible learning disability that you disproved right out of the gate, just going somewhere different. And I'm going to let you go as deep as you want to into that. And let me just say, I'm cool with it. I know it's kind of interesting, older white dude asking those questions, but I would love for our society to have conversations about this more. So is that what was covered in that chapter, or is that something different? Tell me one more time something ain't fair.
The goal of her telling us that and telling me that was to prepare me that because of my color, because of my race, because of my background, my socio-economical background, because of where I was born and raised from, because of my family, because of my history, because of my finances, because of all these different things, I would be labeled and it would not be fair. It would not be fair. Whatever I did, it would not be good enough. Whatever I tried, I would still be looked at as sometimes less than. And so she was trying to tell us that life will not be fair. So if I'm passing judgment or if I'm making a decision to do something, that's the decision. You can say it's not fair, but you have to understand that was a decision that was made. And I need you to know that I'm not I'm not trying to change it, but you need to know that because you're hurt about it, there's going to be additional ways in life as you grow up that this won't be anything compared to what the unfairness that you'll get, compared to the labels that people will put on you, compared to the things that you'll never be able to do and have access to because somebody sees you a certain way. And so it was very deep. It was very deep of what she said about that and what she tried to show and explain in the way that she was doing it, because it really not, it didn't harm, but it really opened our eyes, especially moving from an all black school to basically all white school. And you don't get the you what they go home to may not be what you go home to. And it's not that we aren't doing our best, but sometimes it's not fair in life. The Where we come from and what we had, this is our best. What they have and where they came from, they may have already had something from the generation before and they could come up higher, but that's theirs. Is it the same? No. Is it something wrong with it? Maybe, but life isn't fair like that. We all have stuff that happens, good, bad, and different. That's another piece of it, and we won't know when that unexpected comes, the stumbling blocks, the roadblocks, and I'm sure you don't want them, Tanya, but that's life. Life is not fair, and I need you to know that so that you don't fall apart, so you don't, you know, understand, so that you don't, lose it when the unhappy and unfair things of life happen to you.
Yeah. Is there a spiritual aspect to that being fair or unfair?
I mean, you can look at the story of the was it Solomon, when the two women came with the baby, and one they both were claiming that they were theirs, and he said, okay, they kept fighting, kept arguing, and then he said, okay, fine, I'm gonna cut the baby in half. And the one that really was the mother said, no, let her have it. And so it was not fair that the one that actually was the mother was going to sacrifice and say, here you go. But she realized it was not fair to hurt the baby just because I wanted him. And so it's kind of the same role in life. Sometimes this what we want, it won't happen, and we may have to sacrifice and give up and we still don't get it. But um you have to be willing to make those sacrifices even when they hurt as well, even if it's not fair. It turned out, eventually Solomon gave her the baby, but it won't necessarily turn out like that always.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And one thing that's interesting at the time we're recording this, and by the time people listen to it, who knows? But we're in a world that's making some shifts and changes. And, there's been a virus that is definitely not fair. There's about to be, most likely, some economic challenges, would be the lightest thing to say. Seen projections that, we could have 20, 30% unemployment. That doesn't sound fair either. So it could be that what you just said, Tanya, could be one of the most important messages that we share here, because I think people need to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. All right, let's maybe be a little bit lighter, because that's kind of pretty deep right there. Lot of other, like, I see one titled Cotton Picking Mine, and then one that's got a few exclamation points that might be profanity, which is interesting. Give us a couple, just as we finish up here, we got a few minutes left, a couple of your favorites that you would just want to share and give us a little glimpse of the chapters before we finish up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you two that were hers and one that was my granny's that's in the book. So one says, "Can't nobody beat you being you," and that literally is reminding everyone to know that nobody can beat you being you. You need to stop this imposter syndrome. You need to stop fighting this ers and the s. Yeah, somebody's gonna be prettier, somebody's gonna be wealthier, somebody's gonna be smarter, somebody's gonna be the smartest wherever that time and season is. But just like they look at the Fortune 500 or the top 50 influence. They do it every year because it changes. Because like you said at the beginning, we're always evolving, we're always growing, we're always arriving, we're always moving, we're always progressing towards destiny, which is the promise of God. And so that's a moment in time. But you can't stop being you trying to be who they are. You will never win. You will never get to the place of where you're supposed to be trying to be somebody else. So Don't let anybody beat you being you. You be yourself. Another one she would say is you are who you're supposed to be. That's actually one of my favorites because it reminds me and it helps me so much every day in what I do, whether it's working with individuals or organizations. Who you are is what people want. Who you are is what people want to see when you show up. They don't want anybody else. They want the authenticity of who you are. That's who you're supposed to be, not anybody else. So those are the two that she said. And then the one I have to pay homage to my grandmother that's in the book that says, keep living. Listen, Tim, I learned that very early because I used to mess with my granny when she was like, "Oh, we got to get home. It's getting too dark. I can't drive late and when it's too dark." I used to mess with her because I'd be like, "Granny, it's not even late. Like, what is the problem?" No, no, no. I gotta go home. It's getting too late. I can't see at night. Or she was like, "Well, you gotta come pick me up." Tim, let me tell you something. I can't see at night. Okay, and I'm nowhere near how old my granny was when she was telling me that. So I have kept living and I have now been experiencing that. And so, yeah, yeah, I'm nowhere near how old she was, but I promise you, I cannot see at night. Even the glasses don't help. These are real. They still don't help. I cannot see unless it's from memory. I can drive from memory. Like if I'm going somewhere I always go, I can just drive from memory. But outside of it, to somewhere new, nope, I can't see.
Oh my goodness,
It's
that's interesting because I was sitting here thinking, wow, we used to be a joke in our family. People say, "Oh, we better get home before it gets dark," and we'd look at the
yeah.
car and go, "There's lights on that car. Why can't we drive after dark?"
It's like them lights.
No.
The headlights just be bouncing in the air like deer crossing the street. Listen, I can't see. It's bad.
Oh my goodness. Well, we could probably have fun going through all of these chapters, but I'm going to let people get the book and read it. But how can our listeners connect with you? Go ahead. We're going to put it in the notes, but just tell them verbally for those that might be listening on the podcast. Just how can they connect with you?
Absolutely. So on social media, you will find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter under Talking with Tanya. So search for me, follow me, like me, subscribe, connect. Would love to hear what you have to say about the show. Would love to hear any type of feedback or just ask me a question. And then on the books, you can get them on Amazon. They're there in digital, print, and audio, and then the journals are in print. But you can also go to my website for my direct link for my store at shop.tanyajmiller.com. And that is where you can get the books as well as the journals, as well as message merch. I'm actually wearing a message merch. It says Purpose So Full of It. But basically, our message merch is merchandise that we sell that is with a purpose. So, um, message apparel, message buttons, message stickers, all different things. Affirmation cards are out there. And if you sign up at bit.ly, all caps, join fam, you get 20% off your first order. So, hey, I'm throwing a little extra in it that you can't get from Amazon. And then
Nice.
you also can go to get sign up and get one of our online classes on life and leadership at school.tanyajmiller.com, as well as just going to the regular website, tanyajmiller.com. Find all this information. You can find information about coaching, strategy sessions, or even speaking. Because you might want me to come to your podcast or your virtual summit because we're all pivoting, we're all shifting, and we're all doing what's necessary for what is and what is to come. And so thank you, Tim, so much for being able to be one that comes. I love your heart that you allow not just business owners and entrepreneurs, but you talk to and try to reach ministers and have them on, and anyone that's just going after their purpose to excel and success and move forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to seek, go, and create with you today. And again, tell your wife happy
Sure.
birthday. Happy
I
birthday.
will. Yeah, a couple quick things as we wrap. What's next? Just what are you excited about? What's next? We're in an odd time right now, but what's next for you? What's something you've got coming up?
Motivated Effort is the fourth project and it's coming out and it's reminding you that it all starts with you. That's the fourth project that's coming out. And I may do another mixtape as well. So I forgot. Yeah, I have a mixtape that's on all digital outlets. It's not me rapping, but it's me doing Talk with Tanya or a pretty cool beat. And sometimes that might be what you need in the morning time to reset, or at the end of the day, or working out. So check that out on all digital outlets as well. So for sure, Motivated Effort, maybe another mixtape.
Awesome. All right. Title of the podcast, Tanya, Seek, Go, Create. Last question for you. Which one of those words jumps out to you and why? You probably, with your background, know that they have some spiritual background to all of them, but seek, go, create. Which one?
You told me this at the beginning, and I was like, I'm like, all of them. But you told me I had to pick one. So I just think I would say create is really just sticking out for right now. And I just think it's because he's shifting me and looking at how I need to do things. And he's creating and renewing me in my spirit and in my frame of mind of where he's trying to go and how he's even the more bringing forth the spiritual aspect of what I do, the kingdom aspect of what I do to show up in this earth. So he's creating something new and he's bringing it out.
That's excellent. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking time to share with us. If you're listening and you would like to continue the conversation, we encourage you to do that. And we welcome it. We would love it. Just continue this conversation. All you need to do is go to seekgocreate.com. That's seekgocreate.com. And you can comment on this specific episode post, or you could contact us via the Contact Us page, or you could also find us and communicate on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those places, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, we are Seek, Go, Create. Those three words, just do a search, you can find us. Thank you again all for joining us. We look forward to connecting with you on the Seek, Go, Create podcast in the near future.